Google.
Okay.
I just gave you Google.
Again,
they use DEI. Not only are they one of the best companies, diversified basketball, bringing black people who are good in it.
Nothing you're saying.
Diverse.
Nothing you're saying is making any sense.
Okay, I bet.
Because what they did.
Of course you don't.
The NBA went to pure merit, pure excellence. Are you good at this? That's all they cared about.
They allowed black people in, right?
Exactly, because prior.
Okay, then.
Hold on. Because you know what they had prior was a form of racial stereotyping. And you want more racial stereotyping. Your worldview is indecipherable from the KKK.
So what
you want, it's indecipherable because you are race obsessed. I am not race obsessed.
No, you are,
talk about the race. You talk about race more than the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Right.
Because
I'm the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Well, think about it. I said your worldview. Think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're around talking about race all the time. I'm talking about character. Which of us?
You talk about race all the time. You literally said DEI is based on race when it's not.
Because I'm
DEIA
explaining.
with accessibility.
Man, you're getting really upset.
My bad, you're right, because you keep lying. For instance, right? I've been trying to say this. DEI, one part of DEI is literally giving women tampons or pads at work. Oh, yeah, you're laughing because you don't know that.
Giving women tampons is a form of DEI.
Yes, it is. You know why? Let me explain. Yeah, y'all know. I got you. I'm about to explain to you guys.
Hey guys, so Charlie K cooks food who says tampons are DEI. So I can't wait for us to watch this. This really looks very intriguing. Charlie K cooks food who says tampons are DEI. So I can't wait for us to watch this. This is very, very intriguing, and I think this is another heated one. I can't wait for us to watch this. This is gonna be a banger. So without further ado, let's get right into this video.
Mr. Simple, you've said some very nasty things about me online, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. Simple question, Simple Black Theory. What do you think about blind hiring? Are you for blind hiring?
No.
No. So why not? Because blind hiring, for those you don't know, is based on merit, where you don't
look. No, it's not.
So what's blind hiring?
Blind hiring would be that you do not put the race actually when you submit for, you don't even see the person when you interview them for a job.
No. That's one part of blind hiring. There's multiple ways to do blind hiring. But at the end of the day, blind hiring is exactly not knowing the person's race, age, or gender. That's based on merit. Like you said, you want merit, correct?
Well, hold on. Those things can factor into merit as well. For example, if I'm trying to hire for an Amazon warehouse worker, and all of a sudden I find out that they're at 69 with 1 year left from retirement and the age is not disclosed, wouldn't I prefer to have a 24-year-old man than a 69-year-old woman who's overweight?
You're moving the goalpost. Let's bring it back here.
No,
the whole point was about blind hiring.
No,
right?
you said race, sex, and age is not incorporated.
Correct.
I think you should have a full picture of a human being is when you hire them.
So you care about diversity?
No, actually, I don't.
Why? Because that's basically merit. You're focusing solely on merit. You said you want meritocracy.
No. Just to be clear, if diversity happens naturally through meritocracy, great. If all of a sudden we have people
DEI.
that... Well, no, it's not. DEI is by force.
So let me explain that.
No.
Go ahead.
I got to interject. DEI is that we are going to forcibly make an institution more colorful.
Right.
We're going to forcibly make an institution more black. Where if all of a sudden, if half of Texas A&M was black because it was all on merit, praise God, that's an amazing thing. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden, for example, if the NBA is 75% black because it's on merit, great. Terrific. If the NFL is half black because on merit, we don't want to force race. We want excellence and meritocracy over race in every possible circumstance.
Right, yeah, my turn. Okay, so let's get into the NBA, for instance, right? Can we both agree at one point black people weren't allowed into the NBA? And then they allowed them to be in the NBA? Wouldn't that be considered diversity? Wouldn't that be DEI in itself?
No. It's actually the opposite. You see, you're mistaken, my friend. It's actually, we're getting rid of any racial stereotyping. What happened was actually a form... No, DEI is racial stereotyping. So what actually was before was a form of white preference DEI, which is white supremacy or whatever. And then we got rid of it. We said, we're not going to discriminate it. And the quality of play got better. Do you guys see the difference between the two? You see, it's very important. Well, no, actually, I'm talking to both you and the crowd, right? I'm talking to both, right? So what ended up, what you want is you actually want to bring back a form of how Major League Baseball and the NBA used to work before we desegregated.
So we can agree that Executive Order 11246 is what basically brought in DEI, correct?
I think that might be it. Is that the affirmative action one? I don't know.
No, it's not the affirmative action. It's for DEI. So within that executive order, where does it say that they're solely focused on making people get into jobs. For instance, like United Airlines, right? You mentioned that, well, let's pause that. I'm going to get to here. So for an example of DEI is basically your daughter, right? She decides to get a job, right? And unfortunately, it's that time of the month. She goes into the bathroom. Calm down, calm down, calm down. She goes into the bathroom. Stop. She's going into the bathroom.
You're losing the audience, man.
I don't care. I'm talking to you. So she goes into the bathroom, right? And she goes into the bathroom and gets a tampon or a pad that's been given from the job. That is DEI. That is literally, yes. Yeah. You don't know. You don't know. That's great. So if you don't know, DEI, interrupt me so he can win. Go ahead. You want to do that, right? Or be quiet and we can talk. Thank you. So, right. Can I continue? Thank you. So, my thing is dead. All right, so, yes, because in Executive Order 11246, they say that DEI is focusing on a safer environment and a more equitable environment within the workplace and the hiring process. Let's look at Google. Google actually does DEI. You know how they do DEI? Give me an example of, do you know Google's DEI? I'm pretty sure you don't.
And they shouldn't, of course not.
What is their DEI initiative?
I actually don't know the specifics. Because I don't know every company's specifics. However, let me ask you a question. When you're hiring somebody, would you rather hire someone that's black or someone that there is excellent?
So, that's what we're talking about. That's not what DEI is.
Actually, it is. So let me prove it to you. As I said, according to the Student for Fair Admission Supreme Court case, black students were able to get into Harvard with
affirmative action, not DEI.
Affirmative action. Time out. You're getting too worked up here, man. Okay. Time out. Affirmative action is DEI in practice. You see, DEI is a theory.
Wasn't it struck down by Supreme Court?
Yes, and they still ignore it.
So why are you bringing it up?
Because they're still ignoring it, my friend.
So let's focus on my question I asked you.
Hold on. Let's get back to the core macro tenet, which I think is very important.
Correct.
Which is, wouldn't you prefer a country built on excellence and merit, not one based on forced pigmentation diversity? Why does somebody's skin color matter? No, tell me, what differences do you as a black man and me as a white man have, and why does it matter?
Okay, so
why does it matter?
So let's look at, because again, you don't understand what DEI is, and you're trying to put it in one stance, which is not. So back to this question. So in executive order, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't know executive order 11246, correct? So
I have an idea of what President Trump signed, correct? But because he got rid of that executive order.
Right. And in that executive order, it says literally, y'all can Google it too. It says that DEI focuses on both the workplace and hiring.
Oh, got it. So does it focus on diversity?
Now let me explain a DEI initiative. Does it have the word diversity?
Yes. We should not have any forced diversity, period. End of story.
It's not forced diversity. It does not say forced diversity. And I'll put money on that too.
But does it say diversity?
It says diversity, yes.
Well, then it's forced diversity.
But it's not forced diversity.
Then what is it? It's a suggestion?
So correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm lying. Does it say forced diversity in the executive order?
But it has the word diversity.
Does it say forced diversity in the executive order?
Hold on, let me get this straight. Executive order with the word diversity.
Can I give you an example of DEI initiative then? Let me give you an example of DEI initiative so you have a better understanding. So let's look at Google, right? Google's one of the hardest companies to actually get into. In fact, I believe there's a 0.2% chance that you actually get the job, right? They actually run a DEI initiative. Their DEI initiative is called a hiring committee, where they have a diverse group of people that have been working.
Awful.
How? So you're telling me Google sucks?
Google actually is, honestly.
So y'all using Bing. Y'all using Bing.
Honestly, ChatGPT's way better than Google recently. I don't know about you guys. No, but honestly, to your point though, Google has lost its competitive edge in a lot of ways the last 10 years. Hold on a second. Again, Google does a lot right, but hold on. Google has lost the social media war. Google tried to launch a Facebook competitor, an Instagram competitor, failed. They tried to also launch a Zoom and Skype competitor.
On the conversation.
Failed.
That has no proof
Google's
that was DEI.
Google's market cap, otherwise known as Alphabet, has actually missed expectations over the last 2 years versus Netflix, Amazon, and Apple and Microsoft. In fact, there was a prediction 10 years ago that Google would be the first $3 trillion company.
Right.
Turns out that it was actually Microsoft that was the first $3 trillion company. Now, of course, Alphabet is a very good company in a lot of different ways, but if your argument right now is like, well, because one of the biggest companies on the planet has embraced a bad idea? What is your argument exactly?
They're still one of the best companies in the world.
Not because of that, because they were built by merit, and it's being destroyed by diversity.
And they use DEI to get that merit. Listen, if they're hiring people, yes, it makes sense. If you're doing a hiring process and you have a hiring committee that is DEI and they're hiring the people that's making the company as great as we just said, your argument is that DEI takes away merit.
It does.
But if we see that Google is doing well and they're using DEI, how the hell are you saying that DEI is not making merit?
First of all, Google has not had this hiring committee around since its inception.
They have. Not since its inception, but they had it for a while. And the people in the committee are people who's been there for a while, which is very diverse.
Secondly, you have not answered this fundamental question, though.
Go ahead.
Which is, can you tell me when an organization gets forcibly more diverse, it gets better?
Google.
Again, I just proved to you, Google is...
Google!
Okay.
I just gave you Google.
Again.
They use DEI. Not only are they one of the best companies...
This was a very heated one, and I really have a lot to say. But I'm going to be reserving some of my comments because I need your comments in the comment section below. Now, this guy was just all over Charlie, and you know, I don't like... I can't applaud this conversation. You know, it was more of chaos, and you know, he wasn't just getting it right now. When we talk about diversity, anything that brings this word diversity will definitely bring inequality and does not triumph. When you hear the word diversity, it's something that has to do with diverse, you know, different region, different people, different skin, you know, colors and all of that. So all those things breed inequality, and there's no how when something is diversified, things like this doesn't triumph, right? So when you hear the word diversity, just know that it brings about racism, you know, comparing the white and the black skin colors, you know, inequality, partiality, favoring one to the other and the rest of it. Now, his own narrative was based on black people. He keeps saying that the black people were being oppressed, black people are neglected, brown and black people are not well recognized. Don't mind me, I'm saying bro. Black people are being suppressed, and I don't know where all this narrative is coming from. Now, I keep saying this and I'll keep saying this on my channel, right? Now, when you want to hire people in a company or in a particular field, please, we're not looking at skin color at this point in time. We're not looking at where the person is from. We're not looking about we're not checking for race. We're checking about competency, people who are ready, people that are fit to get the work done. So I don't know where all this narrative is coming from. You know, he talked about the DEI, that is a no. And when you see, you know, diversity is something that we shouldn't even embrace, right? So it doesn't yield fruits at all. Now, he also made example about the MBA. Now, he said when we talk about the MBA, they don't bring people because of diversity. They bring people who are fit and competent to do the job. That is one thing I know about MBA. MBA brings people who are fit, people that merit it, people that are eligible, people that have gathered experience in that field. They bring in people that want it. They don't look at diversity, they don't look at race, they don't look at skin color, a whole lot. Guys, I don't know, I have a lot to say, but every time I react to Charlie's content, everything still revolve around inequality, diversity, you know, racism and all that. Can we come together and act as one? Let's have the sense of belonging, because currently this guy was just all over. He didn't even calm down. He keeps saying that the black were being oppressed, the black are this, the black are neglected, the black blah blah. Oh my god, this narrative has to stop. I am a black, and you know, I cannot see what is black and call it white, and I can't see what is white and call it black. Let's call it a spade, right? So thank you so much for watching. It's still your girl Baby Hair Face Reacts, and you're welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, be well to hit the subscribe button, subscribe to my channel, give us a thumbs up. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.